Hey, Los Angeles. Are you looking for unique 4th of July plans for you and your friends or family? LA's greatest rivalry returns to Rose Bowl Stadium for a July 4th edition of the El Tráfico soccer matchup as the LA Galaxy return to their original home to defend their turf against LAFC. Last year, a record crowd of over 82,000 fans were on hand to witness the Galaxy victory. That's July 4th at Rose Bowl Stadium. Guaranteed fireworks both on and off the field and a celebration for all of LA. LA Galaxy versus LAFC, the Rose Bowl edition. Tickets at lagalaxy.com/tickets.
Welcome back to Now. No opportunity wasted. I'm your host, Angelica Ross, and we are going to continue this conversation with Aaron Axelman on the film Israelism. I had to break it into two parts because there was just so much to unpack. In the last episode, we learned about pinkwashing. We learned the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And we also learned the importance of identifying the real culprit, white supremacy, and that we all must stand together and stand up against all instances of white supremacy, oppression, racism, and violence. When we say never again, we should mean that ish. You hear me? So, before we get back into that conversation, today is March 1st, and I want to read from our quote, Buddhism Day by Day, Wisdom for Modern Life by my mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. And March 1st says, quote, words can either be the root of discord or a force for unity. They can be the origin of deception or the key to learning. They can be the instruments of plotting and intrigue or weapons for truth and wisdom. That is why it is so crucial to speak out ever more vigorously for what is right. Again, these Buddhist words be always on time, honey. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation. Part 2 of Faith and Fallacy, Israelism with Aaron Axelman. What is what has it been like to have someone like Simone who, I mean, to me embodies what I would hear as your nice Jewish girl. You know what I mean? Like I'm watching Sex and the City. I feel like she's what nice Jewish girl, the one you like, just pretty, young, smart, respectable, all these different things. What would the strategy look like with both of you taking this on together?
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, and I realized that I was queer, as I said before, at 15, but I grew up in Trump country in rural Maine, and up until that point, I thought that I was, I'm Jewish, but I didn't understand how Jews were kind of white, kind of not. So it seemed like I was a white person. I was like a white man. I was like, yeah, life's not that bad. And then at 15, I was like, oh shit, the world is not nearly as friendly as it was. And I realized at that point that my life was in danger. I mean, in real ways. I mean, people, it was, I grew up in a very rural, pretty wild place. And I realized that the world, that kindness was not something that was a given in the world. And I realized that the world was incredibly fucked up. I obviously knew that before that, but it became very real to me as a young person. And that has, that's driven my, my life ever since. But it's wild. I didn't actually come out publicly until 2018. Wow. So, and Pose was actually, it was a really inspiring thing for me. And I didn't come out as trans till like 2020. And I only changed my name from Eric to Aaron like 5 months ago.
Wow.
So it's been, and I'm not on hormones yet. I'm thinking about it.
Well, this is the thing. So and I mean, maybe you don't fully know, as this is like your beginning of a journey for you, but it's like that alone is a challenge. So to throw this on top of all of that, while you're in the spotlight of criticism, have you seen these pieces of your identity be weaponized in this process?
Only a little bit, which is honestly pretty surprising. I mean, obviously, people attack me all the time now. That's just what it is. But honestly, only a couple times. There was like this like crazy right, far right wing paper that like Tucker Carlson helped create a while back called like what's it called? Like the Daily Caller.
Mm.
They made one article where it's like trans, trans director, blah blah blah. And they did like, but honestly, apart from that, not very much. And it's been pretty wild, because I've kind of came out, kind of as the film was being created. It's been kind of cool that people have kind of focused on the film itself and not that I'm trans that much. And obviously, I'm down to talk about being trans anytime. Like that's why I'm so grateful to you and other people who were publicly trans and just made
Well,
made
I
that
have to tell
possible.
you, though, I have learned everything that I've learned, especially initially about all this, was from a trans Jewish anti-Zionist person named Ita, and and I think she goes by she pronouns too, but just so brilliant, just like I would just sit and listen to this person talking, and I'm just like, wow. And then it just became such a trusted for me. I think queer people, as we reject sort of the boundaries that society puts on us, because they're there,
Yep.
whether you are Jewish, black, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever it is, like initially there are these boundaries, but it is the queerness
Yep.
that helps us to break through these barriers and to speak to a truth that we know is not always seen or talked
Yes.
about.
It shows us that the world is not how it is. The world is not how we always see it. Like, yeah, like being queer, I think, shows you just different layers of how the world works. And I think has been very helpful for me. And yeah, in being able to investigate, you know, and see deeper layers than what I thought. And again, and for Israel, again, like we're really taught that it's this magical, mythical, almost perfect place. And again, a lot of but what's great is that there also are Israelis who speak up against the policies of the Israeli
Oh
government,
my
and a lot of
goodness.
the
I don't
Israelis
know. I
are.
don't think we would be as far along as we are right now without Jewish anti-Zionists and folks who are willing to sort of like speak. We wouldn't be because it would be because that's what was happening initially was everyone was being villainized
Yeah,
immediately for speaking up on Palestine. So it wasn't until you saw Jewish organizations standing up and speaking up that some of that lightened up.
totally. No, and because I think what we can do is we can show that look, like criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic at all. Like Jews criticize Israel all the time. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think also what we can show is that we can fight for Palestinian rights and fight anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism is real. Hatred of
Absolutely.
Jews, conspiracy theories towards Jews. Again, I grew up in a place where people believed a lot of conspiracy theories towards Jews. Again, like people grew up talking about how Jews controlled the media, Jews controlled the banks, totally crazy stuff, and people believe it. Again, the people in my hometown who vote for Trump, many of them believe it. But I think what we can show is that, again, as I talked about before, we have to be part of a multiracial movement against racism in all forms. That's how we find safety.
It's just like when someone does something bad, let's say a celebrity does something messed up, and then a lot of folks in the public might easily slip into fat phobia, into all kind of things that
Exactly.
just are not
Aren't about that. Aren't
aren't
about that.
about that, are not addressing the issue. And so it's because it's one of those things where I think it's a very delicate conversation to address the systemic development of violence that has become what was once a defense mechanism of creating a sort of safety that has then become an indoctrination to sort of make an entire people susceptible to defending Israel in moments where it should be open to criticism. And that is, it's like this relationship thing of when I think so many of us are used to this space where for so long the game plan was always we have a united front, and then when we get back to the house, I'm gonna tell you now, you shouldn't have said that. That
Yeah.
was wrong. That was so far left. Why would you say something like that? We got to do better and blah blah blah. But I think that things have gotten to a place where I think a certain element of integrity and transparency has to be had across intersections that says, and it's something that we see, I think, in political parties as well, where in the conservative right, you don't see the a level of accountability with anyone of there that's running over there that's doing anything. But with a lot of Democrats, at least the Democratic base, you see that we have gotten to a place where we can't just have this united front without having conversations in the public eye saying, hey, no, we don't just blindly follow along. And excuse me, that's ableist
No,
for me to say that, but we don't just follow along without question, without
exactly.
being informed. And that's okay. It's okay to ask questions. You are not anti-American. You are not a a disruption to the status quo, or unless you need to be, unless you literally need to be
Yeah,
a disruption to the status quo because you are asking the right questions. It comes down to religion, even with Christianity as well, where having a people following and not having people be able to question the leadership of
never a good
not
thing.
never good
Never
thing
a
of
good
not
thing.
being able to
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
sort of church and state. It's a place where we're going to realize, mayday, mayday, we have a problem. And as a queer and trans person, I want to say to especially to those who are listening, especially to my Jewish queer folks, especially, you know um I grew up in the church, and I grew up studying Christianity and learning that I was an abomination and all these things.
yeah,
And what I know for certain is that all of these religions, all of these practices point back to the same source, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it all these different things or what have you. And all across the world, we've had these teachings that have done their best over time at the times that they've had to to speak to and help the people make sense out of life and out of our existence and out of these spiritual places. And one thing that Maya Angelou has gifted us with is the saying of, when you know better, you do better.
yeah,
And it is one of these things that, for especially queer and trans LGBTQ people of faith, I want you to know that no matter what faith background you come from, is that there is evolving that is happening. Some of it has already happened, some of it still needs to happen. But that you do not have to give up your faith. You do not have to leave your culture. But it's okay to ask questions of your culture and to be a part of the energy and the people who make it better,
yeah,
who make your faith and those things more poignant and have actual validity, because it's not being co-opted
yeah,
by colonizing efforts. We have seen over centuries what violence and colonization and the lower elements of human desire have done to overshadow our spiritual purposes. And so, like, I just really want to say, Aaron, that you are on a spiritual purpose right now. I am so grateful for the work that you're doing. When I went, and you and Simone, and when I watched this film, um, I, I had so many mixed emotions, and a lot of the emotions was a influx of compassion for both Palestinian people and Israeli people.
yeah,
Like, if anything out there at all, because what's unfortunate about what Israel is doing is it is not helping. It is
No,
not
no,
helping
it's not good for
America's.
Jewish people either.
It's
It's
not
not good for
good.
us either.
No, listen, it's
It's
not
not
helping the
good.
case
It's not
of the
good.
people's feeling towards Israel. But let me
Yeah,
tell you also what it's not helping is people's feelings towards America. And I am the same heat and energy that I feel right now for Israel and Netanyahu. I feel right now for America and
of
Biden
course,
because
of
it
course.
would not be happening without us funding
Yeah,
and the money for the bombs. I
yeah,
know just here alone, Governor Brian Kemp, here in the state of Georgia, approved $10 million of our taxpayer dollars to go to Israeli war bonds. And so the ways in which our politicians, our government has been trying to divorce themselves from saying there's nothing they can do. Well, maybe not. Maybe not much you could do now because Netanyahu has already turned us into his bitch, basically, and said, "That's cute, America, that you want to try to tell us to do anything, but we're friends and all. But we're not stopping what we're doing, and we're not,
yeah,
and seeing that but our leverage is gone."
yeah. And what's so sad is that again, we could change this again if we had an American president who was willing to stand up and just say no. And just it's as
But
easy as
our
that. Just
American
say,
president self
I know,
identifies as a
I know.
Zionist.
And it's interesting, and there's a lot of I think reasons why, and our film doesn't really get into this that much, but there's many reasons independent of American Jews why the American government has supported Israel so much. A lot of it's just military; they just see Israel as a key military ally. So totally independent of any relationship American Jews have with Israel. It's just that it's just a military ally that they think they can count on. Another part is Christian Zionism, and many Christians really believe in this kind of bizarre
Very
theory that,
bizarre.
that if all the Jews go back to that land, the second coming will come, the second coming of Christ will occur. And many people also just have this because of the relation between the Old Testament and Christianity. They had this strange, not necessarily obsession, but kind of just fascination with the Jews and with the Israeli state. And they love Israel. A lot of these Christians just love Israel in this very bizarre way. And it's not even good for us because, again, the
No.
idea of the second rapture, the Jews do not do well in the second rapture. Before the
No.
second rapture happens,
No.
Jews it does not very
Not
good
in
for us.
their
So there's
story. No.
not in their story. So there's a number of reasons, again, independent, of American Jews, why America has supported Israel unconditionally, and it's deeply tragic because the Palestinians are the ones who have suffered every single time.
Ugh.
And again, and it's as you talked about before, it takes all of us to fight this. And luckily there have been amazing Jewish people the entire time who have criticized Israel
Mhm.
and who have been willing to look
Mhm.
at the reality of Israel as opposed to the fantasy of Israel.
What would
Again,
you
people
say?
like
What would you say to a lot of this celebrity? You see a lot of Jewish celebrities who have not yet. This information hasn't hit them yet for some reason. What will be because the thing is, they have platforms. They have
yeah.
many of them millions of followers. What is your message to Jewish celebrities here in America?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's not that hard for many of us to recognize we live in a country that has oppressed other people. Is it really that strange that Israel has done similar things? It's not very hard for most of us to realize, yeah, we live in a country and it has treated people in horrific ways. Is it really that difficult for us to realize that Israel has done very similar things? Like what makes it so hard to believe that Israel has treated people that way? And I think a lot of it is that because of our history as oppressed people, we don't want to believe that we could oppress other people. We really
Right.
don't want to believe that. Again, I don't want to believe that either. And again, I didn't believe that for a very long time. But once you see it, again, as you say,
You
you
can't
can't unsee
unsee
it.
it.
And I think what I would tell people is that, again, there's a really great line, I think, towards the end of our film from this really amazing rabbi named Rabbi Miriam Grossman. She says, when you talk about Palestine, you are not risking your Jewish identity. You are not risking
Yeah,
your
I
Jewish
love
history.
that.
The only thing you're risking is your denial. Right? We are in denial about Israel. And
Hmm.
again, Israel, again, I was in denial. Many of us are in denial about America, and we learn. When we
Paint
learn
a
that we have
picture
not been
for
told the
me.
whole truth.
Paint a picture for me. What does it look like? What does the what does it look like after the aha? after the aha moment that so many Jewish people are able to detangle.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it's tragedy because a lot of our communities are based around supporting Israel, and a lot of families, our identity is largely about supporting Israel. So it's very difficult for a lot of young American Jews when they realize that again that the thing that they're supporting is oppressing other people. It's very difficult because they often risk losing their closest relationships. And it's been much easier for me. My family's quite left wing, and when I began to really begin asking questions, my family came along with me, and they began asking the same questions. And my dad spent time in Israel in the '60s, and he said that he always knew something was wrong. He always knew that there was something wrong, and so I'm very grateful that my family has not. They fully support me, where it's much more difficult for many people
Mm.
because when you start criticizing Israel, it feels like you're criticizing your very community. You're criticizing the bonds of your community. So it's not easy. It's very hard and it can be very isolating. But I think what's so wonderful now is that there's massive Jewish communities who are just as Jewish as anybody else, and they also criticize Israel. They also say, not in my name. And they say, to live out our
Yes.
Jewish values to the best of our ability, we must fight for Palestinian rights. Partly because we must fight for the rights of people all over the world, but also because it's our relatives and it's our people who are doing this. And so we have an extra responsibility to do whatever we can, whether big or small. But it's not easy. And that's why,
and and, and it's also a part of what is keeping the status quo together, because
yep,
again, the longer it takes for people to have this aha moment,
yep,
the longer we're going to be steeped in this kind of conflict.
yep,
I want to encourage you and affirm you, and to I know it's real. I know for a lot of Jewish people out there, this has got to be very hard. This has got to be
yep,
really, really hard to kind of unpack and deal with. But I want to sort of not compare, but to offer the fact that as a Black trans person, I am a part of a lot of activists and advocates who right now are struggling with a similar kind of accountability with those who would be, I guess, considered the mainstream aspects of our Black community, who have aligned with white supremacy. And it again, it is not. This is it's very simple to like sort of see once you see it, but they have opted into taking up the tools of white supremacy, whether that is homophobia, xenophobia, all classism, patriarchy, all of these different tools that we have brought into our own community and have created oppression with. And now it's a situation where, because white supremacy and racism has been a system that has been devastating to Black and brown people and the violence of it all, what's unfortunate is that the oppressed can become an oppressor. And
yep,
you have, whether it is Black people who have joined the police force, or whether you have Black people who are Democrats and are part of the people who are not helping us move forward and are also helping to, create policies that are not progressive. Um, it really is a place where we have to be, as queer and trans people. I think we're going to continue to have to be the mirrors and hold up a mirror to our communities with love, in the same way that James Baldwin said that I love America so much that I reserve the right to criticize her and critique her perpetually.
yep.
I want us to be better. I want us to do better. And that is not hate. That is not being a self hating Jewish person. It's not being a self hating Black person to want to
Yep.
call on our people to rise up and be
To do
better
better.
and to do better. What is next
No,
for like for you personally, as especially you're on your, I mean, because I would see this film definitely as a huge piece of advocacy.
thank
And
you.
what I think is
That's the
so
goal.
amazing about this being an advocacy piece and you being a part of the community is that so many times people accuse folks in our community of being single issued or only caring about LGBTQ issues, and standing there, and you have come out swinging on an issue that absolutely affects LGBTQ people, sure, but it's not the central the
Yeah.
advocacy of this situation. Are you going to be going into more advocacy? Are you doing more film work? Like, what is next for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we're definitely gonna, this film, I think will have a pretty long lifespan. So I think, so right now we're on tour. I mean, I'm in Vancouver right now. We're doing we have a screening actually. I'm going in 2 hours. I'm going to a screening
Wow.
at the University of British Columbia. And then we have a bunch of screenings the next couple of days with like amazing, activists, including Naomi Klein and Gabor Mate, who's a Holocaust survivor himself. So we're really honored that so many activists are see this film as a useful tool. And that was a big goal of the film, was to make a tool that, that especially the Jewish left and that Palestinian activists would kind of
It's
run with,
truly
would take in.
incredible. Yes.
And I mean, so we're doing a ridiculous number of screenings, in the next few months. But also, people are just organizing their own screenings now. I see all the time. People are just projecting, renting it for $5 and projecting it, which is amazing. So I mean, I definitely will. This will be my main thing, for at least a year or two, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of, I co-founded with my main film partner Sam a nonprofit production company, and we do other films too. This is the only one that I'm like creatively leading. This film, he and I are leading it together. But the next thing, I mean, I think one of the reasons why I think we were able to make an effective film was that it's based off our own story, right? It's something
Right.
that we know really well,
Right.
both in terms of the left wing Jewish community and the right wing Jewish community. I know those worlds intimately, so I could really get into those worlds. So I think I got to figure out, something that I have a personal connection to, which there's a good chance, I'll make a documentary about trans folks.
Well,
Um,
let me give you at least this invitation. This March, around the Trans Day of Visibility, I believe, is our next annual Trans Tech Summit, sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase. It's basically an online summit of teaching tech skills, everything from coding to being a
it's amazing what you
influencer
do.
and doing social
Yeah,
media. Thank you so much, and it's completely free to our folks. But I would love for we're just currently accepting submissions for like folks to share their knowledge and things like that. Would love for you to swing by.
of course,
I
of
think it would
course.
be incredible. I think we'd also can screen we can maybe do a
Sure,
screening of
let's do
that
it.
would be let's oh my goodness. So it would be amazing because here's one of the things that I'm doing here in Georgia is obviously people know that I have said goodbye to Hollywood. And again, I have to keep reiterating what I mean by that. And I'm not someone who likes wallowing in sickness. And when I realize that something is sick, I like to kind of sort of separate myself from that and heal. And
Yeah,
so, there's a lot of things from the stories we've heard from Cassie talking about her experience to the things we hear about actors all the time, whether it's with Harvey Weinstein or whether it's Ezra in The Flash and different things like that. Like, it's so much violence and abusiveness within
yeah.
Hollywood, but I have left that space to model with my own life what it looks like and means to live a creative life, because that's just who we are.
Yeah.
And we cannot allow Hollywood to sort of arrest and co-opt our dreams and make us feel like there's only one way to sort of achieve those dreams. And so one of the ways that I've been able to demystify sort of the path to Hollywood is to kind of reveal that as long as you're an asset into the space, whether that is sound, camera, lights, graphics, editing, there's so many different things when it comes to production and filmmaking. And so that's really a huge part as well of the Trans Tech Summit, because I know so many of our people want to be in narratives and filmmaking and all that. And sometimes we only think about the front of the camera aspect of
Yeah.
it. But knowing that when you become a part of the folks who roll their sleeves up and create the narratives and tell the stories, then you're not always waiting for someone to green light, approve, or turn your life on like a light switch. But I
Totally.
want to show our people how to access the technology that will put storytelling into their hands.
Yeah, I mean, our film again. We're a tiny nonprofit film production company. We're totally independent.
Wow.
We've been trying to get on streaming sites, and they're not having it right now. So, we are
Wow.
totally
Of
independent,
course they're
and
not having
yeah,
it.
yeah, they're not having it. So again, and you can do it. We don't make a lot of money. And we do a lot of client work. So how we make a living is we often, we make videos for left wing organizations and individuals, but through donations and through people renting the film, we're able to keep this project going. So, we are
What is the
totally
name of your
independent.
company?
Tikkun Olam Productions, Tikkun Olam. It's a Hebrew phrase.
Okay, well listen,
Um,
we're gonna put a link to that into
Thanks, you
the
guys.
the show
Thank you.
description and all of that, because listen, one thing that people have to understand is that when you see folks doing the work that we want to see happen, and folks are, a lot of times we know that it costs. Advocacy many times does not pay. I
Oh,
don't know.
took us a long time to raise money for this film. In the first 3 years, we had no money. I basically funded it by tutoring, so I would just tutor high school students
I
and
was
use
going
that
to
money
say
to
there
pay for
was
the film.
somebody, I think it was Brad or Bob or Bill Axelman or somebody. Is there some? I saw another.
That was my brother. That was my
Yeah,
brother.
I
Yeah,
was
my,
like,
my, my brother donated. My brother donated.
I saw a producer name on their Axelman. I said, I know that. I know that that's a
Yep.
family member chipping in because
Yep.
that's how much they believe in that. But
Yep.
it's the fact that we do have to have these sort of side income streams and different
Yep.
things. And I want, one of the things I want to say to folks listening is it is so important for you to be a patron of, to support in any way that you see, whether that is donating to nonprofits or whether that is just choosing to subscribe to buy merch, whatever it is, because we do so much for the most problematic
Yeah.
of celebrities and rappers and folks, and I always, in Buddhism, we have this in our the Lotus Sutra, it talks about becoming a celebrity of the mystic law. And basically all the mystic law is something that nods to the fact that no matter who you are and what body you are in, that everybody has an equal access to the source that gives us wisdom, enlightenment, and compassion, and everything to be able to have an enlightened life. And so, to become a celebrity of the mystic law is literally to become someone who is celebrated for being just some random person who is yet another example of how anybody can have this sort of life. And so, know that you can create a life and be creative and be celebrated and be valued without having to align yourselves with oppressive systems. We are learning right now through so many movements that boycotts work. That a lot of
They
things.
do. They do.
Listen,
They
money is
do.
where people start to listen. It's
Yep.
all. I hate this. That is the way that it is. But
Yep.
money talks. And so when you start hitting people's bottom line, all of a sudden people start making statements. So one of the most powerful parts of this documentary is the account and experience of ex-Israeli soldiers
Yep.
who are telling you firsthand.
What it's like to be an Israeli soldier.
One thing that I'm grateful for Buddhism, I will say, is it has given me the ability to have a kind of compassion for folks that sometimes people just don't have the range to
Yep.
have compassion for. Uh, when I thought about how these Israeli soldiers are trained to just occupy and completely just on command occupy a Palestinian person's home, to
Yep.
become a presence of threat.
Yep.
And to, when I saw like the story of one of the military, one of the soldiers who brings him to the rest of the crew and he does his job and then sees that he's kind of a part of a system that is even taking it even further and now is beating and being violent with this guy and then imprisons this person. And what I thought was so infuriating to me was, I remember seeing a clip on The View and I saw Whoopi Goldberg talking, and there was a point in which one of the hosts was talking about the hostages about the Israeli hostages, and was also talking about the Palestinian prisoners and
Yeah.
hostages. And Whoopi Goldberg stopped the show, stopped the thing, and was just like, "Let me correct you. Those are not hostages. Those are prisoners. Those are," and kind of tried to make this distinction between the hostages that that Hamas has taken, and the prisoners that are in prison without charges.
Yeah, you can just detain them. That's what it's like to live in a system without civil rights. Is that Israel and the West Bank can just detain
Just
Palestinians
detain you.
without
So all
charge?
of a sudden now, because this is what I need folks to connect the dots here on just along with Rikers Island
Yep.
here in the United States, where Rikers is for many a place where folks go just to
Trial
await going
for
to trial.
years,
So we don't
sometimes for
know for
years,
years. We don't
sometimes.
even know if they're guilty or not or what the deal is. We ain't even gotten to all that yet. They're just being held. And
Yep.
Rikers is one of the most violent
Yep.
places on earth. And
Yep.
so to have a military occupation that can just grab somebody up at will, especially anybody who dares to use their platform,
Yep.
journalists, to do things to talk about what's going on. And then you have people who easily, because here in America, the moment we hear about somebody put into prison, we start asking questions. What did they do?
Yeah.
They must have did something. Well, maybe they shouldn't have been outside at that. I mean, it's a whole bunch of all of a sudden
Yeah.
excuses for why we start aligning with why it might be okay for
Yeah.
folks to be and so I want to make it clear right here, right now, that as well is that there are a lot of folks when we talk about, because there was if I'm clear, and I think your film talked about this as well. I won't know because this film was made before October 7th,
Well before. Well
and
before.
that is what is wildly serendipitous about this project is this was made before October 7th because our politicians and so many people, when I tell you they have been on message to go back to October 7th, and the fact that this has been the nail, this has been hitting the nail on the head. This documentary right here has hit the nail on the head, especially when you are having the words come directly from Israeli soldiers who are telling you what it's like to not only do what they're doing, but to snap out as if they were like we've seen movies and films like this where people were under some sort of spell and they didn't realize they were being controlled by this thing and then realizing I've been lied to
Yeah.
about so
No, I
many
mean,
things.
totally. No, I think that's what's so tragic is that, both American Jews who joined the Israeli military and Israelis, you really told, like, you're defending the Jewish people, you're protecting the Jewish people. So you really believe that. But when you actually find is that, especially when people are stationed in the West Bank, what you're actually doing is you're upholding an apartheid system in
Mm.
the West Bank. And so these young kids, again, like, who really think that they're doing a good thing, they've been told by their adults that they're doing a wonderful thing, realize that they are very literally soldiers in one of the few apartheid systems in the entire world right now, where literally Palestinians, you have Israeli settlers born next door to Palestinian citizens. The Palestinians are born into military law. They get tried in military courts.
Yeah.
They do not have due process. They do not get to vote in elections.
And they're literally
And
called children of darkness. Like Netanyahu, they like, and it's as if
yeah,
we want to ignore the fact that it's been very clearly communicated there are no Palestinian
yeah,
civilians. There are no good Palestinians. They're all
I
children
know.
of darkness.
And that's why it's like, it's so devastating because, again, a lot of the things that Netanyahu and various government ministers have been saying about Palestinians, if you replace the word Palestinian for Jew, you realize that what they're saying is unbelievably racist. But Palestinians have been so dehumanized in so much of, our communications and our media that people kind of just ignore it.
I have heard that growing up as a black child in racist neighborhoods that I'm a child of darkness.
Yeah.
So I know what it's like to be counted out before I've even had a chance to
Yeah.
communicate to the world who I am. One of the things that I want our listeners to know is that if you are breathing and you are an adult, it there is a very high chance that you have been lied to. Not
About a variety of things, about many
about
things.
many things. So I know we oh my goodness. So Jewish people, Christian folks, black folks, Latinx folks, Caribbean folks, disabled folks, folks with mental health issues, folks with addiction issues. Almost on every topic, baby, I'm here to tell you, you have been lied to. And it is well past time that we start living in the light of truth,
Yeah.
that we understand that is not just a cliche, but the truth will, in fact, set us all free, and understanding that none of us are free until we all are free.
No, thank you. And again, and I think what's also true is that again that none of us are safe until all of us are safe too. And that again October 7th was horrific. I know people whose family were killed, but the solution to that is not to kill 20 times more people. It's like the idea that people literally think, do you really think that killing 20 to 30 times more people is going to create safety? It's like it's absolute madness. And the only way to actually create safety is to create a system in which all people have equal rights, in which all
Yes,
people are born into the same legal system. Because if
absolutely.
we don't create the conditions for hope, people are going to
You're
find
creating
extreme
conditions
solutions.
for
Exactly.
despair. And yeah, and
Exactly.
especially
Exactly.
when you think about, like, again, it's not, I think people are so quick to call people Hamas sympathizers and all these different things. When you are someone who stands against violence, you're standing against all
Exactly.
violence. And so I don't want to see any of this. But what I know is that you cannot tell half the story. And
Yes.
that is the only thing. It's like when you're talking about people
Exactly.
born into an open air prison,
Yeah.
born into having your electricity, your internet, your
Yeah.
water, things. And then to see things like the Holy Land Trust I was looking at in your film, I just have so many
They're
notes from
amazing.
watching. Amazing organization
Incredible.
that has been doing work to like try to like provide help, try to get clean water, to the folks in Palestine, but even having their efforts sabotaged by the Israeli military,
Yeah.
throwing dead animals into the water supply and things like that. Like when I would hear
Yeah.
things like that, I'm just like, what's happening right now is evil. It's evil. And and what's bad about it is it's striking up this anti-Semitism that's judging all Jewish people and all folks without being able to pluck out the root of the evil that is
And that's yeah.
happening.
No, and that's why again, yeah, and that's why we can fight anti-Semitism while fighting,
We
for
have
Palestinian
to.
rights. We have to. And again, and I really like what you talked about earlier. It's like we must, when we criticize Israel, we must criticize it on reality, on facts. And some people take it too far, and they basically, even though they fight for Palestinian freedom, they end up believing in crazy conspiracies, either about Israel or about all Jewish people. And again, like Israel, again, we can criticize Israel based on what they're doing. Israel
But
does not
I
control the
think I
world.
think I think Israel does not control the world, but I think the hard part to swallow and the hard part that needs to be unpacked is the systemic the building of a system. And
Exactly.
so I think that it's that's where people take things into
Yeah.
sometimes I use the wrong words. I want to say hyperbole, but I don't know if that's the right word I want to use. But that's where people take things into such a extended place because they recognize a essence or something, and then they take it and make it into this almost stereotype of something that can be
Yeah.
used for racism, for different things or whatever, when there's very real language for systemic oppression. And I
Exactly.
think that
Exactly.
is what we have to talk about, because that is control, that is certain
Yes.
things. but we can talk about, and because systemic things have receipts to them. Unfortunately, like fortunately, we
Absolutely.
the thing we can do is follow the money, and then we
Mass
can
incarceration, mass incarceration has receipts. It's like we can
huge
you see how
receipts.
these systems are built into being. You see how the occupation has been built over many decades. No, and again, I think hopefully what our film also shows is that I think again, because we've been so oppressed historically, and because Jews have often been on the right side of history. We fought for so many amazing social justice movements, both in the U.S. and abroad. We want to believe that again, that we couldn't do something like this. We really want to believe that, but it's like we're not that different from anybody else. It's like just like again, our film. One of the big inspirations for our film was this film Jesus Camp, which is a film about kind of indoctrination of
Listen,
indoctrination
I've
Christians.
seen Jesus Camp.
Yeah, and again,
Whoa, I
we're
think I
not that.
lived Jesus Camp
I
actually,
know,
but yeah,
totally.
yeah,
And again, we Jewish people have been oppressed like many other groups, and we are vulnerable to being the oppressors and vulnerable to indoctrinating ourselves like many other communities. And we're
absolutely.
not that different. We're not that different, and it's tragic. And I
It's
think
tragic, but I
our
stand with you. I'm standing 10 toes down with you because I want us. Because I know that as a trans person, sometimes I get accused of, there because there's this conversation of, are you black first or are you LGBTQ first? And it's like,
yeah,
listen, baby, I'm all of it. Number one,
I don't have to choose. I don't have to
I
choose
definitely
at
do not
all.
have to choose. But
Yeah,
I think that with so many things that we have experienced, what I am feeling and realizing, and at least in my view and my approach as a leader, what I'm going to be advocating for is for us to start to study elements of abolition and restorative justice, and to start to offer accountability and atonement, both on a collective and individual level. We as a culture have to start modeling what it looks like to say, I messed up, I'm
yeah,
sorry. um to also create a space where we don't feel like these are an indictments on people's characters, but that we can actually, as human beings, have the actual muscle to change and grow, that we are an organism that can shift, that can do better, that can change. But in order to do that, we've got to start to get comfortable and conditioned with the cyclical nature of accountability, because
yeah,
it's a pie that has infinite amount of slices,
yeah. And
and
that's why I'm
everybody can
honestly,
get a
yeah.
slice.
And that's why I'm really proud, of progressive Jewish people who've been willing, to look reality and have been willing to change, because it's not easy. And again, and that's what gives me a lot of hope is that, we're at a point now where polling shows before October 7th that again, about 40% of Jews under 40 think Israel is committing the crime of apartheid. And almost all those people, I'm sure, started out as pro-Israel. And so
Right.
a huge proportion of our Jewish community has already been willing to change. And so now it's up to the rest of our community to change, and it's not going to be easy, but I truly do believe in my community's ability to change.
Well, I believe in this
And
film and this film's ability to be a huge part of that change. It it hit so deeply in my heart, and I am not a Jewish person, and I it just made me feel so hopeful for Jewish people to be able to find purpose, healing, validity, refuge, all of the things that they would want to find in their faith after we all heal from this.
thank you, my friend. No, and again, your work has helped me heal too. Again, like the greatest trauma of my life was being queer, right? Was growing up in a place that didn't accept me and having to, hate myself for
Mm,
almost for 13 years. That was and the fact that you and so many other people, you guys have done an amazing job by just
thank
being
you.
you. I mean, again, Pose and shows like it were huge for me in terms of just
Wow.
like I'd never seen trans people on TV before, ever. I didn't know what it was like to actually live, a successful trans life and just be you. And so again, I'm very grateful. It came out, Pose came out when I was coming out, so it was, and seeing everything you've done really, really amazing stuff. So I'm very grateful, my friend.
All right. Well, I hope you learned something, because I sure did. I learned a lot Thank you so much, Aaron, for just being amazing and doing this work. Thank you to your co-director, Simone, for doing this work. This is such an important film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Look up Israelism. You can rent it right now and watch it, have a private screening, or you can rent it for a screening and book it. However you need to do it, I need everyone actually to go see this film, Israelism. Now, before we go, I just want to drop one more breadcrumb of Buddhism. I don't really have the time. I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm traveling right now. I'm packing. I just got my hair braided. I'm about to head out to Issa Rae's soft launch of her new lounge that she's doing, and I'm flying out in the morning. So I can't fully go deeply into this breadcrumb. So it's truly going to be a breadcrumb today. And I just want to explain karma for a second. And I want us to understand that karma is not something that is good or bad. In Buddhism, we don't really associate things with good or bad. We focus more on cause and effect. And that we understand that even in this lifetime, before this lifetime, because Buddhism believes in reincarnation and the cyclical nature, and this ain't the first time at the rodeo for me. I've been here before. And so who knows, in a world that has constantly been oppressive to women and to female energy and has been racist and have been all kind of things, who knows how I participated in that in my previous body? I don't know. But all I know is how I'm living right now, period, is my karma. It's not good or bad. Because if you ask someone else, me being a Black trans woman would be bad karma. But baby, what I have learned is that it's a blessing to be Black, trans, and feminine, and non-binary, and exactly who I am. This is my karma. This is what the causes in my life have created this effect. And I am on purpose that folks may call the simple fact that my mom and the struggles that I've had with my mom and her initially, not being supportive and the things that she said to me. I've spoken about all these things before. But me being a Black trans person in my family is bringing karma. So you call it good, call it bad, call it what you want to, but that's not what we do, especially as Buddhists. And that's where karma comes from. So we don't judge people based on that. We don't, because everybody has karma and everybody has their own to deal with. So instead of judging folks based off of what you think is good or bad karma, focus on doing something right now, today, to put a good ripple effect in the world, to put good causes that will create good effects in your life. You may not ever be able to work off, what I'll say is this: it is fruitless to worry about the bad things and the mistakes and the missteps that we've done. I think I explained this actually on the last episode as well. All we can do right now is focus on making the most out of the current moment. No opportunity wasted, y'all. I'll see you next week.